Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltore, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last few years, I've been featuring each fille du roi, or king's daughters, and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. Today, we are on episode 240. We've come a long way. We've got a long way to go. But before we begin doing episode 240, I want to show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. That also helps my logarithms and all that good, YouTube stuff. The next three are ways to help the channel grow. We have Coffee, and Patreon, which are monthly platforms or one-shot deals. And then we also have YouTube PayPal on my website, Have Roots Will Travel. So all of that helps out. So I really appreciate those of you who have contributed thus far. You really make a world of difference. So let's get started, shall we? So episode 240 is Bonne Guerrier, and she is a viewer request. She also, when I looked in my files, the boy next door, who many of you, my regular viewers, know, his wife, this is one of her great grandmothers as well. So let's get to know Bonne a little bit better. So Bonne was born in 1645 in Paris, France. Her parents were Pierre Guerrier and Geneviève Rioux. Now you can see by the map, she's part of the Île-de-France region, and inside that region, she has the Département of Paris, and inside that, we have the 5th arrondissement. Remember that Paris is laid out in circles, so she is part of the 5th arrondissement. The chapel that she would have been baptized in was called Saint Nicolas du Chardonnay. A chapel was first built here in 1230 in a field planted with chardon, which are thistles, hence the name, Saint Nicolas du Chardonnay. In 1656, the construction of the present church began. The church was closed and badly damaged during the French Revolution, and most of the art was destroyed, but it still stands. And you can see in 1676, that's a depiction of it, and also in the middle of your screen, that is how it looks today. The 5th arrondissement is the oldest arrondissement in Paris and was first built by the Romans. This arrondissement, also known as Panthéon, is situated on the rive gauche of the River Seine. The arrondissement is home to the Quartier Latin, a district dominated by universities and other educational institutions. It was here in the 12th century that the Sorbonne was created. And the traces of the area's past from the Roman time survive in such sites as the Arène de Lutèce, which is a Roman amphitheater, as well as the Therme de Cluny, a Roman baths. And this is very much the culture, the center of Paris. So let's have a look at her journey to New France. At 20 years of age, she came to New France with about a dowry worth about 200 pounds. There is no mention if her parents are alive or not. June 18th, 1665 is when that ship would have docked in Quebec. The groom that she selected and who selected her is named Jacques Fouque. He was born in 1628 in the city of Rouen, France. His church was Saint-Sever-les-Ponts. His parents were Pierre Fouque and Marie Massé. So the Église Saint-Sever, I wanted to show you a picture of it as it looked back in the day and now as it looks there now. Rouen is a city on the River Seine in northern France. It's actually in the Normandy region, and the département that it belongs to is the Seine-Maritime. It's the capital, actually, of Normandy. Rouen has an amazing historical story, and it was at one time the largest city in medieval Europe. It played a prominent role in both English and French histories from the 11th to the 15th century. Joan of Arc was tried and burned alive here in 1431 at this area. Rouen is a city of cultural and educational significance, and it was here that the Statue of Liberty sailed in June of 1885. So tremendous, tremendous place, obviously on my top 10 list. So Jacques would come to New France. I do not have a date for you. He was a sailor, however. And that is logical given where he is from as well. On October 12th, 1665, at Sillery, Quebec, Bonne and Jacques were married. So the family would first settle at Sillery. Sillery for many centuries was its own independent city, but by 2002 it was amalgamated along with other smaller cities into the larger region of Quebec City. Sillery was first established as Canada's first Indian reserve. It was named Saint Joseph, and the money for establishing that first settlement was provided by a man named Noël Boulard de Sillery. Unfortunately, the native population fell victim to disease and other issues, and the reserve failed. The town was eventually named Sillery in honor of its benefactor and would become an important player in Quebec's lumber industry. On the upper left of your screen is a picture of Sillery's riverfront. I've also included a map of where Sillery is, and also on the top right of how it became amalgamated within Quebec City in 2002 and is now one of the boroughs. On the bottom right is the Maison des Jésuites de Sillery, or the Jesuits' house of Sillery. A fort was created here in the mid-1600s and would have been present during their time. This actual house was the one built after the fort burned down twice and dates from 1703 to 1730 for construction. In 1666, the newlyweds Jacques and Bonne were listed. Jacques was 30 years old. He was a sailor. And Bonne was 21, and she was his wife. The family would then move to Cap Saint-Ignace. This was founded in 1672 and was born from multiple land grants from the intendant Jean Tonneau. It's very interesting. 5 different seigneuries were created that eventually formed Cap Saint-Ignace. They each had their own name: Vincelot, Lillette, La Fesnay, Saint-Joseph, and St. Clair. They would have been part of where Cap Saint-Ignace was even before Cap Saint-Ignace was a thing. So they literally were among those pioneers. In 1667, we find them there, Jacques, Bonne, and they have a child now, Geneviève, and they own 5 arpents, so about 3 acres of land. And here's one of the old mills, and then we also have the aerial view and one of the older houses that you can see as you drive. And this is just a plan of the pioneers of one of the areas. They are not listed on there because they would eventually move to yet another area. Let's have a look where they move next. So they would move to Saint-Augustin de Demarre. This tiny community is just amazing because it actually has 17 Figuerois who eventually settled here. And the history of this place is in 1647, Jean Juchereau, Lord of Mar, is given the seigneury that includes this small village. By 1668, the territory begins to be occupied. It was then called De Mar. By 1671, a community mill was established at Lake Saint-Augustin by the son of the original lord, also named Jean Juchereau de la Ferté. By 1685, Paul-Augustin Juchereau de Mar becomes the 3rd seigneur of this community. The name of the parish most probably comes from his first name, Augustin. In 1691, the establishment of this parish is recognized. Although there are no official documents that prove this date, it is the unofficial start of the parish. At that time, there were approximately only 200 people. Now you can begin to see Saint-Augustin de Mar on the map. This is the church, probably in the 1920s. And here on the left hand, big circle, that is where Bonne would have lived, because they've listed all the filles du roi, and there she is with land, no doubt. This is where they settled. And I have to tell you, I visited this small community in the summer of this summer, 2023, and it is charming. That church looks pretty much the same, and the place is as charming as you can imagine, filled with history, and truly a place to go if one of your ancestors is here. I was looking for another ancestor of mine, but certainly if you're a descendant of Bonne, this is the place to go. They would go on to have 4 children. Geneviève would marry François Hubert and have 9 children, 5 of whom reached adulthood. François would pass away before the 1681 census. Pierre would pass away shortly after the 1681 census, and Marie-Madeleine would pass away again before the 1681 census. Just very tragic. Jacques would pass away in 1674 or 1675. We are not sure of the date. The fact that he was a sailor may indicate, and again, this is just supposition on my part, but certainly she was left at that point with, I'm not really sure how many children were still alive at that point, but certainly she had Geneviève and Pierre were definitely alive at that point. So she had some children and she needed someone to help her. The second groom, Charles Marchand was his name, and he was born in 1644 in Normandy. We do not know his parents. We know that he probably comes from the region of Calvados and possibly Bayeux, but I don't want to focus on this too much because, again, I don't have the proof. So we'll just leave it at that. One of the reasons we don't know that much about Charles is the fact that we don't even have their marriage record. Obviously, it existed. Sometime in 1674, they were married. And if we had the marriage record, we probably then would know his parents and all of that good stuff. So with that being said, let's see where they go next. The next place that they go is Charlesbourg, which is a borough of Quebec City. The origins of Charlesbourg began with the concession of the Seigneurie of Notre-Dame-des-Anges in 1626. The seigneurie extended from the Charles River northward, encompassing so much of the new territory. In 1665, the new intendant, Jean Talon, set out to establish 3 new villages further north on the plateau. This caused some friction with the Jesuits, who were the seigneurs of the area. But, oh well. Jean had his way. The first of the 3 villages consisted of a 25 arpents, which acre square, in which a 5 arpents, about 2 or 3 acre square, the très carré, the square of the square, was reserved for the church, the presbytery, and the cemetery. The homes of the settlers, located on the periphery of the très carré, the very small, and their plots formed a star-shaped pattern. So you can see it, Charlesbourg, Petit-Orving, and Bourg-Royal. They all have that look. An aerial, this is an aerial view from the 1960s. Again, the plot is really unique how it's laid out. This Charlesbourg is first and foremost an agricultural area, in addition to becoming a vacation destination for the inhabitants of Quebec City in the first half of the 20th century. Now, the church that it eventually created was dedicated to Charles Borromeo, who was its patron saint. He was a Catholic saint who was a leading figure of the Counter-Reformation combat against the Protestant Revolution. And you can see the church, an illustration of it, of what it looked like in 1696 and what it looks like today. We have the 1681 census with Charles, 37, Bonne, 34, and their children, Pierre, and Charles. Now, let's have a look at the family they created. Let's have a look at the 5 children we have Pierre, who died without descendants at the age of 22. We have Valentin, who married Marie-Louise Garnier and had 3 children, all of whom survived. Charles married Geneviève Jeanne and had 5 children, all of whom survived. Marie-Catherine married Pierre Eddy and had 4 children, all of whom survived. She then married Juste Grenier and had 1 child, who also survived. Elisabeth married Jean Dubras and had 12 children, 5 of who survived. She then married Nicolas Gabriel Aubé and had 2 children, all of whom survived. Geneviève and François are not on the census, as they were both working at this point as contracted employees. By 1682, her son Pierre also was hired out. So this was a common practice in the day to have children employed as servants. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was just that this is what they did. Charles would pass away at age 81. He and Bonne would have been married 15 years. Bonne would go on by herself, settling in Quebec City and living on Rue Saint-Louis, which I put a picture up, and kind of the old house that would have been around when she had been there. Although we do not know her exact date yet, the last mention of her is at her son's wedding in 1707. If this is her date of death, she would have been at least 62 years old and possibly older. She would leave 95 descendants between her two husbands. And so we turn to the resources that help you kind of find your ancestors. And one of the best is La Société des Filles du Roi, which is a society you can join if you can prove your descendancy. And it's not that complicated and it's not that expensive. And you get a beautiful certificate that you can frame. I would definitely encourage you to go on the website and check out what you can look at without being a member, and then you'll see. I used to use this site all the time before I became a member, and I became a member, and then I became the membership chair, and now I'm one of the directors. But truly is a starting point. We will be celebrating our 30th year this year, having been established in 1994. And the other ones as well are all fabulous resources. Quebec Genealogical E-Society, Généalogie du Québec et d'Amérique française, also known as Nos Origines. We have WikiTree, we have Filles du Roi Descendants, we have Généalogie Québec, which is the ancestry of French Canada. And we have Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi for those of you who can speak French. All of the links are in the notes section of this video. And so ends episode 240. What a woman this Bonne was. I mean, not only did she survive 2 husbands and carry on by herself, she left 95 descendants, but she also lived in so many different places. She started off in Quebec City, Cap Saint-Ignace, Saint-Augustin-de-Marre, finally in Charlebourg, and then finally back to Quebec City. Just amazing. She could get up and reinvent herself. And that's part of these women. These women were strong and were able to just carry on and find a way. And I thank them for that bravery. And we are honored that they came to our shores. And we want to say a very, very big thank you to Bonne for gracing us with that courage and that endurance and making certain that her descendants are still with us today. We honor you, Bonne. And I also want to say thank you to my patron supporters and subscribers. Thank you to all of you. You really make this a wonderful activity that I have been doing for over 2 years now. So thank you so very, very much for following along with me, and I will see you on episode 241 of Les Filles du Roi. Until then, au revoir.